Hello, everybody. Michael Molenda from Guitar Player Magazine here. I'm with Joe Bonamassa and Sterling Ball at the Joe Bonamassa Experience at the Guitar Center in Hollywood. So, Mr. Bonamassa, why don't you tell people what the experience is all about?
Well, about a year ago we started talking about this, and I don't make it a secret that I collect guitars and amps and just about everything. And my house is pretty much decorated, and it's basically a cash register away and some small goods away from being a functioning guitar shop, And it's just the way I choose to live, And the idea of I'm always sharing pictures of it and sharing guitars and whatever. So the idea came about from Sterling and the fine folks at Ernie Ball about doing a whole experience, break out some of the really nice stuff that generally doesn't see the light of day, even for me. I mean, most of the stuff was out of tune when we got here, but and share it with some contest winners that are equally as passionate about it, and maybe have never seen a '59 Les Paul or a Seafoam Green Jazzmaster or any or other, all of this stuff that I'm most likely in 20 years going to be stuck with or sell it all at pennies on the dollar because nobody will care about it anymore. So that was the impetus of the idea, and Ernie Ball has done such a great job promoting it. I mean, you can't, you can't even get past the D string in a set of 11s without seeing my hideous face on it. So they've done a great job promoting it.
Sterling, Ernie Ball Music Man, you guys have always been so awesome at reaching out to, players and stuff, but both with this or your unsigned band competitions, all that stuff. What was the kind of germination of this idea to kind of pull the vintage guitar thing for you? Was it just in a dream or something, or?
Well, it's just not including the guitars. It's also an opportunity to meet a real modern day guitar hero that really loves the guitar and like he said, his house looks like a guitar store. So it's really, it's involving our artist with our customers and our company, and I think that's a more credible and better way of telling the message of our family-owned business.
You actually got to play some of these earlier. How did that feel? That probably sucked, right?
I didn't even have to buy a set. I won the ticket. Playing the guitars were unbelievable, because the other thing about Joe's guitars is they play perfectly. I mean, the people that are going to play this guitar probably never play guitars set up this well. Forget that it's a 59 Les Paul or 60. I got a little nervous playing them. I think these people will be too.
You wrote a column for Guitar Player for a while, and you're kind of popping back in and out with that about your search for vintage gear. And just based on what Sterling said, how much do you actually kind of get in and fix these up or set them up? I mean, are you kind of nervous about messing with them too much, or?
Well, there's two facets of my collection. There's the real mint stuff, like this '66 Seafoam Green Jazzmaster, and the strings are old on it and the frets are original. Chances are, I mean, I'll sit around, play it at home, but if you really want to play them in battle conditions, old guitars, most of my live guitars have been refretted, and it's like having a great automobile or whatever with a bald set of tires. If you're not getting what the instrument is capable of doing, then it's not worth playing. And they are tools after all. And I do set them up. Mike Hickey, my tech, can tell you that there's been times on stage where during the song he sees me reach down for the thumb wheel on the Les Paul, and I'm raising the action because it's too low. And it just, for me, the string gauge I use 11 to 52. What? I use 11 gauge Ernie Ball strings. Sometimes there's a 52 involved, but that's just rumor. I use 11 to 48. On most of my vintage guitars, and the trick is setting them up so they feel almost like 10.5. So it's either top wrapping a Les Paul, and on the Fenders I use 10s. So it's just about getting it to feel slinky and no pun intended, and inviting to for the player, or in this case it's me. So.
Most of the people seeing this video, and this is probably going to sound like a really dumb question, but they have got no opportunity to play vintage guitar at all. You're obviously an expert of it. So, what do you feel? What made you such a zealot about this? What is it about these guitars that actually feel so good beyond value or whatever?
Well, this is the thing about old guitars. A blindfold, okay, you can hand me the 59 Les Paul or the John Petrucci model that Sterling's holding. Unfortunately, I will manifest a way to sound like myself. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter, and guitar players inherently have their sound in these. This is all the sound comes from. It's not a pedal, it's not an amp, it's not a cable, it's this. For me, the old stuff has a story behind it. I'm a history buff. I like playing it. I certainly like collecting it and finding it. And it's also a little bit part of some of the attraction of my live show, where if you sit in the Fox Theater in Detroit or wherever we play, I see people before the show coming up and they're taking pictures of the 59 Fender Twins. They're taking pictures of the guitars as they come out one after the next. And it's a way of sharing the collection, and I don't believe these things should just lie in vaults and never to be seen or heard from again. I think they were designed as instruments and should be played.
I can borrow some.
You're more than welcome to borrow anything.
Thanks.
Sterling, back to your dad's store and everything. I mean, you've probably been around vintage instruments all your life, or when they were new, probably. How much does that kind of experience with these style of instruments kind of play into your design of guitars today, if at all?
Oh, it was so early in my life that it really became DNA. I mean, when I worked with Leo Fender when I was like 20, it wasn't an intimidating thing because I'd hung around Leo Fender with my dad, who was an endorsee and a dealer from when I was 4. I remember one of my earliest memories is going to the Fender Quonset huts. And so, I mean, these guitars we were Fender guys. I mean, I knew what the 65 custom color, the maple cap, I know these guitars because I saw them as a kid. So yeah, I mean, Fender got so many things right, they still do. But these guitars are, I mean, it's really a great day to play all of them because you see how much of them they got right, and they were never intended to be used the way Joe uses them and everybody uses them. They weren't designed for distortion. Surf music was a lot of these, and early rock and roll was clean.
Yeah.
And some of the contest winners, they're from all over the world, right? Who's going to show up here today?
4 are from Europe. I think there's only 1 from America. So listen, you bought a pack of strings, you opened it, and you got to go to Guitar Center Hollywood and play some of the greatest guitars that were ever built by one of the greatest living guitar players. And I just think that's a great way to tell our story.
Yeah. How are you guys going to keep these guys from turning to ash when they get here?
That's we have people for that.
Okay, awesome.
No, it is overwhelming. I remember coming to this building before this room was built as a 12-year-old kid in 1989. My dad brought me in, and I was able. 2 things happened that day. One, I played my first '57 Stratocaster, which hooked me for life because at that point in time I'd only seen them in
So
books.
it's their fault.
It's their fault. And yeah, I've spent a lot of money in this room. And the other thing was, I was immediately hooked on it. And just to be around to see your first tweed amp, your first Fender Sunburst Stratocaster, like, this particular guitar, I don't know if we can do it. I used to have a poster of it on my wall as a kid. And this was the Collector's Choice edition it was in a competing publication of yours, but 1988, George Lynch was on the cover of Guitar World, and in the middle of the magazine was a picture of this guitar. I used to pin it on my wall, and this was my Playboy magazine, and because I love the patina. I always love the patina of these original 50s Fender necks. And I love this guitar. I never in a million years imagined there would be one day where I owned it. Mm-hmm. And when it came up for sale, I was lucky enough in a position where I could buy it. And it just goes full circle. It's the same thing that when I was a kid, it still drives me today to collect them. I still love them. And it's a whole separate life from my other life on stage. You know, the guy in the suit and the sunglasses, that's a different life. You know, Joe Bonamassa, the collector, it's almost a full-time job. You know?
That's the first black one, isn't it?
It is. It's purportedly the first black one. Now, I'd love to see the Jimmy Bryant one that they claim is a 54. I haven't seen it, but as far as I've not been able to find another earlier black Strat than this, so it's either to me it's either the first or the second, which is good enough for me, good enough for Howard too.
What's really great to me is that guitar players, there's like a cycle, like a cocoon to a butterfly, and usually they get successful and they're buying expensive cars and houses and they don't play guitar very much. What's so nice, because we've been at a relationship with Joe for so long, that Joe's never lost his love and passion for guitar. I know he dreams about guitars.
Oh yeah. Unfortunately, it is an addiction, and it's just like anything else. It's like, what's your favorite guitar? It's the one you got today. What's your favorite amp? Today it happens to be a 1959 DeArmond R5, built by the Rao Corporation in Toledo, Ohio, that happened to show up this morning in a box. As a collector, I will say this: you have to enter into these deals with the mindset, it's not what's it worth today? Well, it's got a price tag today. What's it worth tomorrow? What could it be worth in the future? You have to come to the conclusion that maybe someday this guitar will be worth $1,000, because it's the same mentality. It's like, what is there? If there's nobody else interested in these things, the prices will go down, the demand will go down. If people are still interested in them, then the demand will go up. Hence the reason for playing them on stage. Hence the reason for not, you know, there was a while, about 6 or 7 years ago, maybe more, where a lot of this very expensive stuff went into these black hole collections, and they were only brought out very rarely, never played. To me, the whole point of having it is to share it and play it. So,
Absolutely. Well, thanks, you guys. This is, I guess we better get on with the thing. Let the guys start rocking their stuff. So, pretty awesome, hanging out in Guitar Center Hollywood with Sterling Ball and Joe Bonamassa and all these beautiful guitars. So this is Michael Molenda for Guitar Player Magazine saying goodbye for now.